Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Miiya Angele for those of you who are new here, and today I'm going to be discussing the 6 amendments on the Alabama ballot for the 2020 general election. So a lot of you will be voting November 3rd, and I thought it was extremely important for you guys to truly understand what you're voting for. So before we get started, just a little background about me. I've been practicing for about 4 years now. I'm at a pretty large law firm. I'm not going to tell you the name because y'all like to call people's jobs. Let's see, I've been published a few times now, and I was on Alabama's top 40 under 40 list for the National Black Lawyers for both 2019 and 2020, so just a little flex. And I only even say that because I know a lot of you guys don't know me and have never met me, so while I know I'm credible, I just want to make sure you guys feel safe in receiving the information that I'm about to give. So with that being said, like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm going to go over the 6 amendments on the Alabama ballot. I'm not going to tell you which way I'm voting. I'm just really going to dumb it down and put it in layman's terms so that you can understand it. I am also going to tell you the party affiliation. I'm not going to tell you which party I'm affiliated with, but I do think that it matters to know which amendment is affiliated with whatever party. So let's get started. You will see me look down some because I do have my phone. That was the only way that I can keep up with all of the amendments. And I made some notes of some things to point out to you guys, and this will also keep me from rambling and keep this video from being longer than it has to be. Okay, so one more thing. I will be paraphrasing the amendments just a tad for the sake of this video, but I will include all of the amendments word for word right below this video so that you will have everything that you need. Okay, Amendment 1. This proposes an amendment to the Alabama Constitution to provide that only a citizen of the United States has the right to vote. So right now it reads that every citizen of the United States who meets certain requirements has the right to vote. This would change it to only those U.S. citizens who meet certain requirements have the right to vote. So very nuanced change. This doesn't really make any changes to state voting requirements, and it's also already a federal requirement that you be a U.S. citizen to vote. So I actually don't really know the purpose of this amendment. However, I did do a little research, and it looks like this comes from other states having non-citizens who have voted in like local school board elections. So that may be where that come from. So it could just be a precautionary measure. I'm not sure. However, it doesn't appear that Alabama has this problem. But what I will say for just common sense standpoint, anytime you go from every to only, that's limiting. So while it doesn't change anything right now, I do think that it allows room for limitation in the voting rights arena down the line. So again, this changes the language from every U.S. citizen who meets the requirements has the right to vote to only those U.S. citizens who meet the requirements have the right to vote. And this is Republican affiliated. So Amendment 2 is actually the longest amendment on the ballot. It has a lot going on. I'm going to do my best to break it down. I'm not going to actually read this one, but I'm going to break it down into 8 sections so you will know what Amendment 2 does, what changes Amendment 2 proposes. So, number 1, it provides that county district courts do not have to hold city court in a city with a population of less than 1,000. So right now, a district court is required to hold court in each city with a population of 1,000 or more where there is no city court. Under this amendment, district courts will no longer be required to do that. Number 2, it allows the Alabama Supreme Court rather than the Chief Justice to appoint the Administrative Director of Courts. So right now, the Chief Justice is the one that gets to appoint the Administrative Director of Courts. But this change would allow the whole Alabama Supreme Court to do it. And for those of you who don't know, the Administrative Director of Courts, they oversee the state court system. So it's a pretty important role. It will change it to allow multiple people to appoint that position versus one person. So the third thing this amendment does is it increases the Judicial Inquiry Commission from 9 to 11 members, and it also determines who appoints each member. So we'll just call the Judicial Inquiry Commission JIC from here on out. And they evaluate all of the ethics complaints that are filed against state judges. The fourth thing that this amendment does is that it allows the governor rather than the lieutenant governor to appoint a member of the Court of the Judiciary. So the Court of the Judiciary hears the complaints filed by the JIC. The fifth thing this amendment does is that it prevents a judge from being automatically disqualified from holding office just because a complaint was filed with the JIC. So this pretty much changes the punishment for judges. As of now, a state judge can get suspended when the JIC brings a complaint against the judge to the court of the judiciary. With the amendment change, suspension can only take place with 2/3 of the JIC agreeing that the judge is either physically or mentally incapable of carrying out their duties, or if they just pose some type of threat or harm to the public or administrative of justice. So that just changed how judges are punished. The sixth thing that this amendment does is that it allows for a judge to only be removed from office by the court of the judiciary. So right now, the legislature, those are the people that make the laws, they have the ability to impeach or remove a judge. But this change would allow that power to only remain with the court of the judiciary. The seventh thing this amendment does is that it allows the procedure for filling judicial vacancies to be changed by a local constitutional amendment. So it just changes the way they fill judicial seats. And lastly, this amendment requires a recommendation from the Alabama Supreme Court if there is a bill introduced to change the number of circuit or district court judges or to change the judicial district boundaries. So either one of those changes, if a bill comes into play, they have to have a recommendation from the Alabama Supreme Court. So again, Amendment 2 is pretty intense. It's pretty long. I would have preferred them to just break that down into multiple amendments, but it does a lot. Again, I will provide the entire amendment word for word below so that you have everything that you need. And also, Amendment 2 is Republican affiliated. Alright, so Amendment 3. This proposes an amendment to the Alabama Constitution to provide that a judge other than a judge of probate that's appointed to fill a vacancy will serve an initial term until the first Monday after the second Tuesday in January following the next general election after the judge has completed 2 years in office. So essentially, this would allow a district court judge or a circuit court judge that's appointed to fill a vacancy to hold that seat longer before having to face an election. So right now, when a district or a circuit court judge are appointed to fill a vacancy, they serve an initial term of 1 year or the remainder of the original term that of the judge who used to hold that seat, or whichever is longer. However, this change would allow that appointed judge to sit in that seat at least 2 years before they have to run for election. And this amendment is also Republican affiliated. Okay, so Amendment 4, this proposes an amendment to authorize the legislature to compile the Alabama Constitution and submit it during the 2022 regular session and provide a process for its ratification by voters of this state. So pretty much this would allow the people who write the Alabama Constitution to draft a rearranged version of the Constitution, and this draft can only do 4 things. It can remove racist language, it can remove language that is repeated or no longer applicable, so if it doesn't apply anymore they can remove it. It can combine language related to economic development and combine language that relates to the same county. So no other changes can be made. Also, so let's say a majority of people vote yes in favor of this amendment, the rearranged version of the Alabama Constitution still would have to be approved by a majority of voters before it would become law. So that's Amendment 4, and it is Democratic affiliated. Okay, Amendment 5, we are almost done. This relates to Franklin County. This provides that a person is not liable for using deadly physical force in self-defense or in the defense of another person on the premises of a church under certain conditions. So this pretty much would create a special stand your ground law for Franklin County churches only. However, for it to become a part of the Alabama Constitution, there has to be a majority vote in favor of this amendment statewide, and then a majority vote in favor of this amendment in Franklin County. So, you know, it only applies to churches, so it may not apply to you, but you still have to vote on it. And it is Republican affiliated. Lastly, Amendment 6 is the exact same as Amendment 5, but it applies to Lauderdale County churches. So it's the same thing. It would include a special stand your ground law in the Alabama Constitution for Lauderdale County churches only, and it would need the same majority vote statewide as well as a majority vote in Lauderdale County. So again, this may or may not apply to you, but you still have to vote on it, and it is also Republican affiliated. So those are all 6 amendments included on the Alabama ballot for the 2020 general election. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to drop those in the comments. Again, I'm going to include all of the amendments below this video, so you'll have everything that you need. Don't forget to subscribe, and as always, thank you guys for watching this video.